Welcome to Study with the Best, the magazine show that's all about CUNY. I'm Tina Beth Pena. On today's episode, we'll meet an award-winning filmmaker, take a walking tour of Brooklyn, visit an urban farm, and so much more. But first, students Bishoy Gabriel and Dawi Shin developed a class project for solving global issues by tackling counterfeit medication. They created Veripad, an easily used method to authenticate medications. Their team will launch Veripad in January with the support of the Zahn Accelerator program at City College. This is their story.
Bishoy and Dawi, about a year ago, applied to be part of the incubator program here at City College. And what that program does is it takes an idea that you have and then helps you work on it to make an actual product. And then after that, we won the Social Impact Award at Zahn Center, and that gave us a certain amount of prize money. And from there, we were accepted into the Zahn Center's Accelerator program. And that program takes whatever product you've made to then build a business around it and to move forward into the market. Counterfeit medication is a huge problem and it's growing. The World Health Organization states that about 20 to 50% of medication worldwide is counterfeit. And then Interpol recently stated that over 1 million people lose their lives because they're consuming counterfeit medication. And so our mission is to really reduce the mortalities from counterfeit medications in developing countries. There are a couple of products out there, but they tend to be too bulky and expensive, or it requires a lot of training in chemistry or in lab equipment, or it just simply doesn't test the medicine itself. It would just scan the package. So the Veripad solution is a combination of two parts. The first part is a simple chemical test card, and this test card carries various chemical reagents that then react with the medication in question. So all you have to do is swipe the medication between these two arrows, and then you add water, and after 3 minutes, the water will rise to the top, and then once it reacts with the medication, it will produce a very unique color barcode. And then that's what our phone app actually interprets for you. So on our app, you are able to make an account so you can keep track of what medications you're testing and where you're buying them and what to look out for. You can start and then pick the medication that you've tested. So for example, here, we can choose acetaminophen. It tells you quickly what it is and what it's used for. And then you can just press start verification. Make sure that you've done all the correct steps, which is to crush the medication, smear it across, add water, and then scan. And then if we had a medication on this pad, we can just take a picture of it within the screen, and then it will automatically process it for you. And then the next screen will tell you whether or not it's suspicious. So we're preparing to launch our product in January, and so now we have pretty much two teams, one in New York City and one in Kenya, and we've separately been doing some market research as well as establishing some local partnerships to implement a pilot program. Kenya is the perfect market for us in a lot of ways because there's a high number of counterfeit medications. The medication there is susceptible to being repackaged or tampered with. In addition to that, the population already knows that that's an issue, so we wouldn't need to actively go about educating people about this issue. And then on top of that, there's a growing number of people using smartphone applications, and so technologically they're able to use our product within their daily lives easily. Here you can go to a doctor, they give you a prescription, you go to your pharmacist, and you get the right medication. There's a lot of rules and regulations here. Unfortunately, in developing countries, you can easily go to a local drug vendor, which could be just a table on the street with a bunch of drugs strewn across it, or another pharmacist, and then they basically self-diagnose and are able to get any medication they would need. So really in the US, the counterfeit drug medication issue comes from online pharmacies. So there's a growing number of people that are buying prescription drugs online. And that's where it's dangerous because then you can bypass all of those regulations that we already have in place. We've been reaching out to pharmaceutical companies, local pharmacists. A lot of these companies actually have a social impact branch or sort of social mission, and so that's where we're trying to help them with. We're saying, hey, this is a product that can help people in developing countries, and this is part of your mission. Let's work together. What we plan to do is to collect all of the data from every test, from every person, to then create the data analytics to better understand the flow of counterfeits through these affected regions. And so what we're hoping to see is being able to identify certain patterns, like for example, who's counterfeiting, where are these counterfeits coming from? And using that data, we're going to better inform initiatives and policies about countering and protecting people from counterfeit medications. All of us in the core team come from countries where we know counterfeits are an issue, which is why every time that we go back to visit family in our respective countries like Egypt and Vietnam, we always end up bringing back medication from here. And so with all of that combined, it really pushes us to be passionate and motivated to make this company a success, so that way we can protect people, including our families back in our countries.
Last year, we met up with a colorful gentleman who has a passion for undiscovered treasures that hide in plain sight. Our Barry Mitchell laced up his walking shoes for another visit with City College sociology professor William Helmreich.
Land ho!
You all remember Bill Helmreich, the Christopher Columbus of the Five Boroughs. William Helmreich is a gregarious urban explorer. He's pounded the pavement of every single street in all 5 boroughs. Bill is a distinguished professor of sociology. He teaches at City College's Colin Powell School for Civil and Global Leadership and the CUNY Graduate Center.
I walked 6,048 miles for my first book, The New York Nobody Knows, and then re-walked Brooklyn for about 816 miles.
For his new book, The Brooklyn Nobody Knows, an urban walking guide.
It's all new material. There's almost nothing from the first book. It's got maps and photos, and it allows you to walk every street, block by block, focusing on the things about Brooklyn that nobody knows.
Industrial Bushwick is where we began our Brooklyn mini tour.
What we are looking at now is Graffiti Central, USA. People come from all over the world to look at this site located on Meserole Street and Waterbury Avenue, which has graffiti art done by artists who are famous, by artists who are not so famous. The people who own the buildings are delighted to have these murals because it attracts business. This whole thing is organized by a group that calls itself the Bushwick Collective. They determine what goes up, where it goes up, for how long it goes up. Even though this neighborhood is officially Bushwick, it is called East Williamsburg because it gives it a certain cachet. It's probably the result of real estate developers wanting to get more people here.
So Bill, here I am on a diet and you take me to a bakery.
Well, this is a special bakery. It's worth breaking a diet for. It's called Mrs. Maxwell's Bakery. It's been here since 1928 in East New York on the corner of Atlantic Avenue and Winona Street. One of the things that's interesting about it is that they claim that a disgruntled employee took the recipe that they had for cheesecake and gave it to juniors, which then adopted it as its own. And in fact, there really never was a Mrs. Maxwell. The name actually came from Maxwell House Coffee.
Okay, sure. Bill, how do you know so much about the 5 boroughs?
I drove a cab during college to pay my way through school. I drove it in the late 1960s, early 1970s, when things were very dangerous. But I learned every single street. I did 12 to 14-hour shifts 6 days a week. I learned all the streets that way, and they haven't really changed that much. What's on them has changed, but not the streets.
So Bill, here we are in Brownsville, Brooklyn. What are we going to see next?
We're going to see a mural dedicated to the memory and the teachings of Theodor Herzl, an early Zionist leader.
Theodor Herzl led the world Zionist movement in the late 19th century. He promoted Jewish migration to the biblical site of ancient Israel, so Jews could have a country of their own. When was this painted and who painted it?
It was painted several years ago by a group of African-American high school students. These African-American students learned that Brownsville was once 100% Jewish. When they saw that he had a saying, a motto, which was, "It is not a dream if you will it," they said, we have to pick up on that.
So Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." Theodore Herzl said, "It's not a dream if you will it."
Right. Here you have African American students making something that totally fits them out of something from another culture. Barry?
Yeah.
I saved the best for last.
Yeah, those are some nice houses over there.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you this place. Look at
Weeds, weeds.
I know it looks like weeds, but to tell you the truth, it's what's under them that's interesting. This was a place where, when the mafia killed people in Brooklyn and Queens and maybe even Manhattan, they took the bodies here and they buried them.
Michael Corleone, right here.
Is right across the way on the other side of Linden Boulevard where Howard Beach is, where the famed John Gotti lived. And his group was also suspected of having buried bodies here. Maybe someday they'll gentrify this area. And if that happens, this will be a distant memory.
Let's get out of here, come on. Barry Mitchell, study with the best.
Kingsborough Community College has a year-round organic farm that's not only a source of free vegetables, but also an oasis for students who need a break from classroom stress.
I like that you can kind of take your own pace when you come onto the farm. With schoolwork and regular work and commuting back and forth, it can be kind of like hectic and a lot of rushing and running back and forth. But here on the farm, I can kind of take things slow.
This is a quarter-acre farm, fully organic. That means no pesticides, no herbicides, or synthetic fertilizers. The farm is primarily staffed and run by students, so that those are full-time Kingsborough students. They're the ones who harvest the vegetables. They're the ones who are actually growing from seed. They're the ones who are doing some of the weeding, the filling of beds.
Harvesting this row over here, this row of arugula, if you want to, this row of arugula. My class is part of a learning community, which means that the same cohort of students will take multiple classes together. So in this case, the same cohort of students are taking an English 24 class, which is a research class, and Sociology 31, which is an introductory sociology class, both of which are taught with a food lens. Students come to the farm for a variety of reasons, and students take farm-based classes for a variety of reasons. Some are coming for their own personal education around healthy eating, and also because food policy, food systems is a growing field in a lot of different other fields, right, that aren't traditionally food and agriculture related.
I'm currently a print media and journalism student here at Kingsborough, but actually once starting working on the farm, my passion has grown like so deep that I'm trying to marry my work here that I'm doing at Kingsborough for a journalism major. Also now I'm applied to farm school.
I want to highlight our culinary arts department. We have a really great connection with them. We get food scraps from them, and then we incorporate that into our compost building. We often have culinary arts students working on the farm, and so they actually get to see from the seed that they sow to the plate that they're preparing. We have something called student vegetable distribution. That's what I like to call as our free farmers market. So once a week, we harvest kale and callaloo and chard, and we line up like a farmer's market. And then any Kingsborough student can come through these gates and take a pick of whatever vegetable they would like. Simultaneously, we have cooking demos, so we have a community chef, and she is maybe showcasing a particular vegetable. Maybe this week it's carrots, maybe next week some chard. So she's making simple recipes using the vegetables that are grown seasonally on the farm. I think there's a big sense of community when folks are lining up to, pick up whatever greens they're picking up. They're also exchanging information and ideas. So we have students who are coming from Guyana or Trinidad and Jamaica, and then we have students who are, from the South. And so maybe a student comes here to get our collards, right? But maybe that day we're out, and so another student will suggest callaloo. And so there's a nice exchange of information and of just community building.
Can you imagine being interested in a technology career and having scholarships, internships, and networking opportunities right at your fingertips? Whitney is making that dream a reality.
Knowing that I had a scholarship made it a lot easier to say, let me just go with it.
I kind of feel like this whole class has just been a breath of fresh air.
These young women are excited about the Women in Technology and Entrepreneurship in New York program, or WiTNY, the partnership between CUNY, Verizon, and Cornell Tech, whose initiative is to increase the number of female undergrad and graduate students studying technology at CUNY.
There's 4 long years from the time that you graduate from high school to when you're ready for the workforce. There was really very little going on to encourage more young women at exactly the time in their life where they're supposed to be exposing themselves to lots of different fields of study. And so if we could expose them to technology, that we could actually get much larger percent of that undergraduate population of women deciding that this was the field they wanted to study.
Research has shown that of all the STEM disciplines, technology is the only one where the number of women in the field has gone down.
Right now, the national data says that 1% of the undergraduate women are majoring in computer science. 5 to 6% of the undergraduate men are majoring in computer science. If you could move that 1% of women to 5%, you would double the number of workers entering the tech field in the country. In CUNY alone, if we could move the 1% of the undergraduate women to about 3 to 4%, we would be pushing between 4,000 and 5,000 women into the tech field in New York.
WiTNY is giving undergrad and graduate women an incentive to get into the tech field by offering $3,000 annual scholarships at CUNY, as well as paid internships across New York City.
I'm doing research with Professor Shiri Azenkat, who works on assistive technology. And the project that I'm working on is about older adults with mobility difficulties, and we're trying to understand the factors that they take into consideration while they're navigating in urban environments. Do they avoid narrower streets or big intersections? We're hoping to then apply those to something like Google Maps to have navigational tools that are catering towards older adults.
What does WiTNY mean to you?
It's a very exciting opportunity to be a part of. For me, it's a way to get a feeling for what it would be like if I wanted to go into research. Every Tuesday night, all the interns come together from their various internships, and we get to hear from somebody in the field, which is really cool because we get to network with each other and we get to network with people that we probably wouldn't have met with otherwise.
Do you realize how lucky you are?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Renee is not only an intern, but also a WiTNY Scholarship recipient who's looking forward to starting grad school this fall and to what the future holds.
One of the things that I really found interesting when I got into computer science was that it can be applied to every field.
It's hard to think of a profession or a area of interest that isn't being revolutionized by technology. The more women there are, the more women there'll be.
Ladies, if you're interested in applying for a scholarship or a paid internship for next summer or fall, log on to the Whitney website for more information. Up next, we meet a recent graduate of City College's MFA program who shares with us the process and motivation behind her films.
I was born into actually a family of photographers. I'm the third generation, and visuals are very important to me. So it seemed like a very natural progression for my life. You go about the world looking at a lot of things, and you instantly capture the image with your own eyes first. So what your eyes see is what the camera sees. During my first semester in City College, I started DPing on some of my friends' shorts for class assignments, and gradually that led on to other projects. This journey has really taught me, the importance of visuals and lights and all the technical skills that is required. And I think all the skills that I've learned on these different shorts that I've DP'd on contributed back onto my own thesis film. Cloud Kumo is a poetic journey about a Hiroshima bomb survivor and her granddaughter, who is a dancer here in New York City. And together, they go about their lives, with perseverance and hope. The story actually came to me in terms of visuals first. And I knew I wanted to have dance incorporated in it, using human forms. I was very certain that I didn't want to use actors, and I wanted to use real people. And that was an extremely difficult task because a lot of them are very old and they have a lot of health issues. And I was really desperate, and I thought maybe this is something impossible. So when I went to Hiroshima for my pre-production, the film commission officer said, "Oh, I know a atomic bomb survivor. I can introduce her to you. Maybe you can help in your research." Towards the end of our conversation, I didn't need the translator anymore. It was just a heart-to-heart talk. It's just, there's so little being done and said about the nuclear situation around the world. I wanted to give it an all-rounded aspect and to really, raise the question, is this absolutely necessary? Do we have any other alternative ways in terms of warfare, in terms of power supply, and in terms of natural resources? Prior to winning the Academy Award, I've been rejected by close to over 10 festivals. And I started to really doubt myself when people are like, "Oh, you're an Academy winner." I'm like, "I am?" This is pretty heavy. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just kind of shaking up here. Thank you so much to the Academy. Thank you to the Academy staff. I don't think my films are women-driven or men-driven. If we want to have the equality of both sexes, it's not just women telling women's stories. I think men also need to participate and be educated to know how to work around women. When I was in Hiroshima, I also was casting during my pre-production meeting. We had one day that was set up with different ages of little girls coming in for 3 supporting roles. One of them said to me, I was like, "Well, I was expecting an old bald man to be the director," and she couldn't figure out who's the director sitting at the table. I'm just very happy to be an example and show these girls that women can hold very important roles in the film industry, and that as long as you have a dream, really to go for it and do not hesitate or hold back just because you're a girl.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, check out our website at CUNY.TV or visit our Study with the Best Facebook page. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.